What's going on? Pastor Ryan here. We are on week 3 of our popular series, and we've been talking about influence, what it means for all of us to have influence, the fact that we have the potential to influence somebody, some of us more than others, but everyone, at least one person that we have influence over. And before I jump into the content for today, I want to just share a quick story. Some of you have heard this before, but when I was in middle school, I was quite the rambunctious teenager. Had a lot of energy, was constantly going, moving around, couldn't really sit still, and this was all the time, all right? It wasn't just at school or at home. It was everywhere I went. I was kind of known as being the hyper kid. I was known as the guy that would really just be constantly in motion. And one night, we decided that our youth group went to a restaurant, and we were going to just hang out there for a little bit. My sister wanted to go someplace else because really the place that we went didn't serve food. They just had like coffee and like maybe some pastry type things, but it wasn't real food. So my sister was going to leave and go to a different restaurant, and I wanted to stay and just run around the parking lot, chasing, playing tag, doing just stupid stuff. And as I was in the process of doing that, and my sister was leaving, I turned to wave goodbye to her. And as I turned back to continue in my running, I ran straight into a handicap sign. And I ran into the side of the handicap sign. So not the flat side, I ran into it straight on like this. So I ended up having a line down my face. I was bleeding pretty bad from running into this stop sign or handicap sign. And finally went inside, it got cleaned up, people took me home, and I thought, okay, hopefully this is the end of it. Well, it turns out that story has gone with me everywhere. It's been a part of a lot, even in the youth group. I had nicknames, stop sign, it just all kinds of things that stayed with me. And it stayed with me for a very, very long time. And maybe you have a story like that where something embarrassing has happened and you felt like this is never going to leave me. Something that you felt like was going to be with you forever. Because the fact of the matter is, even if we do something just once, it can affect people's view of us. It can affect the way people view us and their opinion of us. Now, I'm sure that plenty of people, after I ran into the handicap sign, viewed me differently than they did before for a lot of different reasons. But there's stuff in your life that you feel like, okay, I did this one time, I messed up one time, and now people are going to look at me differently. They're going to think of me differently. And we've talked through this whole series that influence is the ability to affect others' behaviors, thoughts, or even their choices. And we all have that potential. Whether you're what's called an influencer who has millions of people that follow you on Instagram, or you're a regular kid that goes to middle school or goes to high school and you have a couple thousand, maybe a few hundred followers on Instagram, or people that you have streaks with on Snapchat. I mean, we all have somebody that we influence, and we can make that and use that influence in a good way or a bad way. You maybe look at your life and you realize the people that have had influence on you. Maybe it's some adults from church. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's friends at school that you realize are having an influence on you, good or bad. And the more bad choices you make, the more mistakes that you make, the more likely you'll be known as someone who does that, makes bad decisions, makes poor choices. And so your decisions, even though you may think, oh, this doesn't matter, in the long run, every decision does matter. And quite frankly, the more poor decisions that we make, the more likely we are to hurt our influence, or for people to think, oh, they're not going to be a good influence. And we may feel like in the past we made so many mistakes, and well, Ryan's sitting here saying that I made all these bad decisions, so I mean, why even try anymore? Well, I want to encourage you, just because you've made some poor choices in the past, it doesn't mean that you can't change, you can't turn around and make some better decisions moving forward. There's a story in the Bible about a guy that I think most of you have heard about, that he made a poor decision. And quite frankly, he could have been known for that. And in some cases, he is known for it. But he's also known for some other choices he makes. Let me share this story with you. It's found in John and Luke. It's found in a lot of the different passages in the Gospels, the story of this man. Luke 22 is where I'm going to start, actually, for this first part. Luke 22, verse 56 through 57. Says, a servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, this man was with him. But he denied it. Woman, I don't know him, he said. Now, this is a story of a man named Peter. Peter was, I think, like I said last week, one of Jesus' closest friends. He was one of the three that Jesus spent a little extra time with. And here it is. I mean, this is after Jesus had been arrested. And this woman recognizes him because he had spent so much time with Jesus. She says, he was with him. And he says, no, I don't even know him. That's a bad choice. That's a very poor decision. And I would say that as we read that passage, we would think, well, Peter's just lost all ability to influence anybody now. He just told everyone that he doesn't know who Jesus is. He turned his back on his friend. But I want you to understand that Jesus doesn't see our mistakes the same way that we do. He knows our sins are forgiven when we come to him with an open heart. And when we're given a chance to make things right, then we need to do it. Listen to what happens in John chapter 21, verse 15. Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. So just as Jesus saw more in Peter than just his mistake, he sees the same in us. Now, Peter goes on and becomes the foundation of the church. I've said this before. He's the one that Jesus chose to carry on his ministry after he left. And that's after he denied him, actually 3 times. After he turned his back on him, after he made a very poor decision, a bad choice, Jesus looked at him and said, you're more than that mistake. You're more than just that moment where you made that mistake. There's more to you than just that moment where you decided to deny even knowing me. And because we are forgiven, we can move forward on a new path, step by step, gaining back the influence that we thought we had lost. Because this is the simple truth with Peter, with you, with me. Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. I mean, imagine what would have happened if in this story it ended when that woman said that he was with Jesus and Peter was like, yeah, I don't even know him. And that was the last we ever heard of Peter. I can imagine how Peter would be remembered as this guy that was just a horrible person because he turned his back. But you know what happened is because he was given a second chance, because he was given another chance, Peter ended up going and influencing thousands of people himself, and in turn, millions, even probably billions of people that have heard the message of Jesus, of God, and what he is doing on this earth because of Peter's ability to move past that moment and understanding that Jesus loved him no matter what. You see, that's not the end of the story. Our mistake, your mistake, is not the end of your story. How your story has gone in the past doesn't have to be how it goes in the future. The things that you've done in the past, the mistakes that you've made, don't have to define who you are forever. They may be a part of your story for sure, but they aren't going to have to be the end of it. It doesn't have to be it ends on this bad note. It can be that it ends on this note of Jesus' grace, his forgiveness, and his love and mercy for you. See, mistakes don't have to define you. You are more than your mistake. It's not the end of your story when you make a mistake. And so I want to encourage you. There's 3 things I think that we can work on that maybe will help you regain your influence, okay? If you've made a mistake, which frankly all of us watching this video have made a mistake. First of all, ask yourself, what's caused me to lose influence? What are some things that I've done that I think have hurt my ability to influence people in a positive way? Identify it, figure it out, and then confess it to God. There is a release that happens when we are able to tell God, hey, I realize that I've done this. I need your help. I need your forgiveness. And then I just encourage you, just like last week, to take a step in the right direction. Start small, but start with something. Start with something simple that you can start to do every single day, that you can move in and you can start to gain a little bit of momentum. Because remember this, guys, if you don't hear anything else, if you don't hear all these stories, I want you to hear this, and this is for everyone, no matter what you've done, no matter what has happened in your life. I want you to understand that Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. There is more for your life if you will just allow God to be a part of it. Don't let your mistakes pull you down. Don't let them weigh you down where you think that there's nothing in your future. There is something great that God can use you for. And I believe that we all have the power and the influence to change this world with Jesus' help. This has been a fun series. I hope that you've taken some of this to heart and that you've understood that you have the potential. You watching this video, you have the potential to impact and change this world. This world needs you. It needs Jesus through you. It needs to see the light of God come through you more now than ever. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of pain going on in our world right now. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of separation and loneliness and hurt. They need to see the light of Jesus through you. And I just want to encourage you, no matter where you find yourself, if you have 2 followers, if you have 200, if you have 2 million, know that you can impact and change this world as long as you have Jesus as a part of your life. Don't let your mistakes define you. Let them push you into the future that God has for you. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back again soon with a new series.